Thank you. I'll take some questions from the floor, if I may, but whilst you're summoning up courage to be the first person to ask a question, Charlie, tell us how good... See, all this is terribly complex, isn't it? Now, you have outlined in beautiful simplicity how complex it is, if I can say that, the way in which these decisions are made. What about the competence of the people you are actually working with to understand all this when they've got so many more? I mean this quite seriously, because this is very, very complicated and specialist stuff, isn't it? And there are politicians involved, and you know what happens when that happens. With all due respect.
I accept that. Even for someone like me that had been a long time in Irish public life and a long time a minister, and a long time as finance minister, the third longest history of the Irish state, even going out to Europe and knowing what goes on there was an eye-opening experience for me, is how different this system was, that there are actually three parallel processes going on at the same time. There's the Commission, there's the Parliament, and there's the Council. And then you try to merge them at the end. That's not like the way we do make laws here in London, or we don't make them like that in Dublin. That's the way it's done in Europe. And that's difficult to understand. And what this industry must do, as other industries successfully do, is understand that and interfere, if that's the word, at the appropriate times along with it. And interfere is the word, to manipulate it to your way. Like, I referred to it in my speech about, say, capital requirements for banks. Right. I introduced this last capital requirements directive as of the Basel months of years ago. Like, that was definitely influenced by bankers. In my view, it wasn't the best thing that it wasn't really the right end result that we got, but it was done, and this industry did the same. And secondly, I say about this particular industry and the financial industry Europe-wide and London-wide and Dublin, say London, Dublin, and Luxembourg, you want to be able to connect that people's pensions, Joe Smith's and Mary Jones's pension is going to be affected, and their jobs are going to be affected. Instead, the headline always is with hedge funds or private equity, what? Speculation against the currency, massive salaries and bonuses for people, people out of work because of restructuring of industries, all part of it, no doubt. But you don't actually sell the message to the people is that their job or their pension is affected. And if you did that more successfully, then then politicians, as you rightly understand, will respond to that. But what politician in his right mind is going to stand up in Northampton and defend a hedge fund manager that got a bonus of $2.5 million last month, whatever the case may be, when his constituents out the road are losing their jobs? But it's very easy for an alternative politician to say, if we hadn't got those bloody hedge fund managers, your job would be safe. So that is something, I think, to the industry in general, not just the Jersey funds industry. I mean the funds industry, but that it's affecting real people's livelihoods and pensions. And that would be my tuppence worth advice, having seen how this comes up, because the pressure the whole time is in the opposing direction. And those are members of the business, accountants like I have been, fund managers, lawyers, understand the mechanics. It's not like this and everything else. But like you make up a minute percentage of the electorate. Your effect might be bigger in the electorate than people think. And it's that message that this industry in total in Europe has lost out. A final point, one good thing, if there is to be a good thing about this directive proposed anyway, it has allowed a little bit more during the debates last year, more common sense to get involved in the whole debate and some change, which wasn't there previously. All we had before that was hysteria. Effectively, there has been a little bit more, but it must go out to a wider audience, and that's my kind of shilling worth advice to people.
Thank you. Any questions, if I may? Could you say where you're from, please, if you'd be kind enough?
Yeah, my name is Martin Rowley. I'm a tax partner with Fried Frank here in London. I think the fight analogy is very good, actually, because the question I had related to the mention that's been made at several junctures about tax information exchange agreements and how they factor into people's perception of Jersey. And I think the comment was also made about the potential hostility. And I think the comment about that calling places tax havens is a misnomer is absolutely spot on. I think a lot of the hostility is at jurisdictions where people perceive that there is too much secrecy and helping people evade their other countries' tax laws. And I do think that Jersey can continue in the vein that it already has of maintaining and building goodwill in not only executing these tax information exchange agreements, but also cooperating with information requests that are lodged under those. And I just wanted to know the panel's view as to actually how much has been done in terms of information requests lodged and what the island's doing to get the word out. Obviously, a lot of this stuff is confidential, but getting the word out that Jersey not only signs these agreements, but actually is at the vanguard of helping countries prevent their own nationals from voiding tax.
Is that one for Martin? Please?
Yeah, I think there's 3 points there. There's 3 bits of information to get out into the world, and that's you have the information, that you can obtain it as the authorities, if appropriate, under the normal rules of information on request, and then you can exchange that information effectively with another jurisdiction. And Jersey is able to do all 3 of those, and actually is one of the few jurisdictions that's able to do all 3 of those because, as the IMF report has demonstrated, we're one of the few jurisdictions in the world that are compliant and largely compliant on holding beneficial ownership information. And one of the least capable jurisdictions in the world at that is the US, and they recognise that problem because of the differences between state and federal level. So those are the 3 elements you've got to comply with. Jersey has, over a short period, a very good track record on dealing with that. I can't say how many requests we've received. What I can say is that we have dealt with every request completely to the satisfaction of those asking for the information, and within a very sensible time frame. But I should also assure you that those are absolutely solid, valid requests which everybody in this room would expect us to deal with. These aren't fishing expeditions or anything else. So as a result of that, many of you may know that as part of our involvement in the TIA process, Jersey has been nominated as one of the vice chairs on the OECD peer review group process. So that's along with Japan, Singapore and India, chaired by a Frenchman. And that process is looking at not only have jurisdictions signed up these agreements, but have they signed up with the right other jurisdictions, not just their best friends, and also are they effective in responding under those requests. That process is a two-phase process. It's going to check the infrastructure and then it's going to check the effectiveness, just as with the IMF reviews of anti-money laundering. Jersey has volunteered to go as one of the first jurisdictions and to be assessed on both elements, both having the legislation and the experience of being able to pass that effectively. We've done that because we know we will score well on it. And this will, alongside everything else we've done, seep out into the understanding of the officers around the world in the different establishments, within the Commission, within the politicians, and continue to build that affirmation that Jersey is a well-regulated, transparent jurisdiction. So absolutely, we are very much behind that process, whilst throughout all of that, still maintaining absolutely the normal requirements for client privacy and confidentiality as you would expect under common law.
Geoff, do you want to?
I could just add a little supplement to that. I think last year we filed over 1,000. This is about information exchange still. There are different types of information exchange, but over 1,000 suspicious transaction reports. I think we cooperated in over 700 international investigations. And just recently, Jersey sponsored a developing countries conference with over 60 countries coming from around the world, where we were seeking to migrate and share our knowledge about managing information exchange in the correct way, fighting financial crime, putting strong anti-money laundering procedures in place. So this is an area where we're very active, but we do have to be also very proactive about making that known.
Sorry, can I just add? We were recently in Washington and we had some excellent meetings with both those who work in the FATF. There's a guy called Chip Ponce there who's leading the work on trying to get the US, get their house in order in terms of dealing with Delaware and so on and so forth. And we had an excellent meeting with him where he is asking Jersey for its input on how they can do better in this area, which is quite extraordinary in terms of how far we've come as a jurisdiction. On top of that, we were seeing the politicians that historically were involved with the Stop the Tax Haven Abuse Act law, which has now been replaced by FATCA, or part of the Hire Act. And we were speaking to those same politicians that we have been visiting over the last few years to lobby on Jersey's behalf, explain what we're about, what we do, and so on and so forth. And the best result of that recent trip is a couple of the usual naysayers, the ones who were most vehemently against Jersey, actually refused to meet us on the grounds that they've got better things to do with their time because they know we're one of the good guys, they've heard our story, they understand it now, they get it, they've seen all of our scores, and quite frankly, they've just got more important things to do with their time. So I take that as a massive step forward, and we're well recognised over there, and we're still building that story here in the EU.
Thank you.